My job is to make seemingly impossible things happen very quickly. We deal in what we call moonshots, that real lofty goal that seems like it can't be done.
It's said that if you stop being curious, you stop growing. I'm David Wiley. This is Dave Wants to Know. Welcome, everyone. And on with us today is a very special guest, Chris M. King, executive performance coach, motivational speaker, and author, the founder of the Status Flow. It's a consultancy that deals with all these things. Chris, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure. So good to be here. It's really exciting.
Now, I got to tell people here right off the bat, well, I'm really honored to have you here. We have a long friendship, and
right, we got some history.
We actually go way back to the radio days. Now I'm off the radio. I don't know if you're still doing that or not, but I'm off. But you and I met working at a LA area radio station where we both were on-air personalities.
Yeah, it was kind of one of the things that is something of my credibility now in my chosen career, because my organization, while there's no shortage of performance coaches that kind of do the standard stuff, I don't do any of that stuff. I don't do the leadership development or the team building. I don't fix culture problems. I don't deal in dumpster fires. My job is to make seemingly impossible things happen very quickly. We deal in what we call moonshots, that real lofty goal that seems like it can't be done. As you know, David, getting a job in radio, even back then was pretty much impossible. And so the fact that we had those careers, right? I trashed a marketing career so I could, make dirt and and because I wanted a radio career. And so here I am today.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because before you got to where you are now, and I only knew you as a DJ, and you and I probably never had any deep, dark conversations back then. So we just knew each other professionally, more or less, and just, kind of pleasantries. But in reading and kind of getting to know who Chris M. King is, you didn't have a good start in life, tough childhood, and things didn't really go your way. Maybe kind of tell us your story and how at least you got to the radio point. There was a lot going on before that.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a very privileged neighborhood in a rather scary house. My father, he comes by honestly, he's not a bad person or something. He had a really rough go. And, one of those things, I mean, he had a tough childhood. He was brought up through the Catholic school, this is in the 40s and 50s, right? Which is a very different place back then. And he was a child prodigy. Like he's one of those ridiculously brilliant people. Like he never went to college. He almost didn't graduate high school, but he built his career as an electromagnetic compatibility engineer. And so he's one of those guys that's so smart. He just, like, most people don't know what to do with somebody like that. And so he struggled in his own way. By the time I showed up, I was the third of three children. My eldest sister died when she was 11 years old. And so I was raised in the wake of her death. And so, dad did the best he could to try and keep together, but, there was a lot of rage and a lot of abuse, and there was, he was drinking and he was working a lot. He made a lot of money, but he was really just doing his best to hold it together. And so,
you mentioned your dad. Is mom in the picture at all, or?
She was, yeah, mom. And all three of my parents are still alive. My dad, my stepmom, and my mom. They stayed together until I was I think dad left when I was about 8. They got divorced when I was 10. He got remarried when I was about 12 or 13. But mom's been around. She's a 49ers fan, so she's real disappointed right now. But
I'm a Raiders fan, and we've been disappointed for 20 years. So
she was a Raiders fan when the Raiders were in LA. She's kind of a hometown thing. She lives up north of San Francisco now. And I told her, "Mom, you're an elderly white woman without a criminal record. You can't be a Raider fan. That's not going to work." You know what I mean?
Wait, you can't say that. So part of you had the rough childhood and dad's pretty tough on you.
Mm.
And so you're looking for some successes. And one thing I found interesting is you learned how to ice skate.
Yeah.
And within a year, you're playing college hockey.
Yeah.
Is that a
Yeah.
real thing?
Yeah. Yeah. I was about 22 and my roommate was playing on the local team and I decided that looks like fun. I want to do it. And the things that were in my way, I'm from the west side of LA, not really a big hockey town. I was failing out of my junior college at the time and I had never ice skated before. But I just started skating. I started skating and training and doing all the things. Of course, that I still had to figure out how to handle a puck and do the stick. And so I worked at a pizza place. I would throw cornmeal on the floor at 2, 3, 4 in the morning and practice stick drills. I would talk to the coaches at the rink and be like, "What do I do? What do I do? What do I do?" And I just trained like a crazy person. And this again, kind of like my radio career, just like this is again one of those seemingly impossible things that is like, there's no way you can do that. No, I was leading the team in the state championships that year. I was fourth in goals and first in assists.
How crazy. And you never had an inkling that that was something you wanted to do before then?
No, no. If you'd have told me, Chris, you're going to play ice hockey, I would have told you you're out of your freaking mind. Like that, it was never a thing. I mean, I'm 5'6", and at my heaviest, when I was really bulked up, I was 153 pounds, 155 pounds, soaking wet. Like not a big hockey guy, but I was fast, I was agile, and once I got out of my own way and changed what I believed, then what seemed impossible became possible very quickly because it is a function of what you believe.
Do you think that kind of pivot, being able to pivot from not doing something to doing something so out of the box, is kind of what maybe fueled you for future things from there?
Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't have. It's funny as I track my professional and my personal history, and it almost seems like it was preordained that this is where I would end up, doing what I'm doing now. It's because it is, and it's all backed in science, right? I mean, I can talk about the Bannister principle, the 4 minute mile guy. Nobody had ever run a 4 minute mile until this guy did it, and then all of a sudden the world changed, right? And people started doing it, all the time. So once you change your belief, well, that's when physical world reality starts to show what you can really do.
So was that a turning point for you? Did you like, okay, I'm capable of doing some things here? Was that the turning point, or did that come later? Or
I think it came later. What happened was that I realized, to the detriment and chagrin of my delicate little ego, what I learned through the lenses of I ended up working in a hospital for a while in the Neuroscience Institute. I started training with retired Navy SEALs, Army Special Forces. What I learned is that there's nothing special about me. It's all a function of neuroscience, right? It's a function of the way the brain works, the way the body works, and because it's all science backed, it's like, well, this is actually scalable. If it were just me or a handful of people on the planet, well, that's great for them, but it sort of sucks for the rest of us, kind of thing. But it's like, no, this is any human can do this, if because humans, everything is a system, right? Like a business, a team, a human being is a system. Any system can be hacked if you understand how that system works. And the way human systems work, they are hardwired for peak performance.
okay, so how do we get from the DJ spinning the oldies or contemporary, whatever they call it,
Right.
classic hits,
Mhm.
to a guy that's talking about hacking what our brains, our personalities? How
I
did that shift come?
Well, I think I came by it rightly. I mentioned my father. He's a systems guy, right? He's an engineer, and so when I grew up, he's anti-sports, like could not care less about sports if he had to. So I didn't grow up talking about baseball or anything like that. I grew up with him, And while it was way over my head, he was talking quantum mechanics and subatomic physics and string theory and all the super, electromagnetic interference. And so I think it planted a seed, even though I certainly couldn't get it when I was 6, 7 years old, it did plant a seed. And so when I started tracking things through my life and I started kind of feeling into things, I just picked it up, I guess. And then when I started learning about how this is possible through human physiology, I started training with Stephen Kotler at the Flow Research Collective. I did a program with Jamie Wheel at the Flow Genome Project. I got really geeked out in this stuff, and then when I realized, well, I can build a business on this, which is great because I don't actually want to work for a living. I just want to do cool stuff that I really like doing. So
So what is that? Is doing cool stuff? Is cool stuff helping others, getting information out? What is the cool stuff that you like to do? Maybe get into some of the nuts and bolts of what is status flow and what is it you do to help people with the way they think, the way they process business and life.
yeah, it's like picking a lock in a door. If a key there inside a door lock, there's what we call tumblers. And the key arranges the tumblers very specifically so you can unlock the door or turn the knob. And humans are like that. There's like these tumblers, and the tumblers are going to be the very belief system that runs in their head, right? Like just like a phone or a computer has a belief system, so does every human being. We call it a belief system. It's the human operating system. That system creates every thought that they have. They experience those thoughts as feelings. Feelings then drive their actions, and their actions produce their results. Now, the results are unconsciously pre designed to support and validate the system. So there's this feedback loop running. So if you interrupt that feedback loop, well, new ideas and conscious awareness can come in. And so it's all tools, all skills based training. And I just like seeing people get what they didn't think they could have. I love seeing people win. Whether it's an individual or a team. We work with individuals. We also work with, I'd say most of our clients are going to be multi 6 to low 8-figure businesses and small teams within those organizations, and they have some crazy idea that they want to do, or they want to do what they're already doing just a lot quicker.
The moonshot.
Moonshot goals. I mean, I'll give you a case study real quick. There's a client that I have. She's got a digital marketing company in Dallas, and she hired me for the standard business performance improvement kind of stuff. But there was a whole host of other things going on. She was married to a clinical narcissist, which like a clinical one, the real deal, not just the casual thing we throw around.
Okay.
But fast forward, she got a divorce. She got the house in the divorce. We got the house refinanced, so she was better resourced. Got her off of her anti-anxiety and her antidepressant medication, so there's a lot less brain fog and she could think a lot better. She dropped 45 unnecessary pounds. We more than doubled her business, and all of this happened in 13 months.
What?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'm having a hard time understanding what it is that's all involved here. Is it just reframing how you think?
It
Um,
is reframing how you think. It's changing what you believe because again, the Bannister principle shows that you will create, validate, and recreate the reality of your expectation or your understanding. So if I can change your expectation and understanding, I can change your results a lot quicker. Like when I'm working with an organization, I say, don't bring me your KPIs and your market trends and your sales histories, to that first meeting because it's just going to retard what I think I can do. Now, if you want, I'll give you a little parlor trick because this is kind of fun.
okay.
Because it is going to physiologically change the way your brain works. So think of something that you really want, and you have some kind of emotional charge around not having it. And you're not going to tell me what it is. So make it real. Think to yourself in your mind, I just want whatever that thing is. And touch into that feeling state. Maybe there's some frustration, anger, maybe there's sadness or shame around not having it. But think to yourself, man, I just want whatever that thing is. Now think it without the word just in that sentence. I want whatever that thing is. what is the difference that you notice in the experience you have when you remove the word just versus when the word just is in there? Like, it's subtle, but what do you notice?
It feels more realistic, more real.
It feels more realistic, and feelings drive actions, and actions produce results. What I just did there was I produced a subtle change in the way the neurotransmitters were functioning in your brain. It's a physiological effect, which then has an effect on your feeling state. Feelings drive actions, actions produce results. It also has an effect on your very human energy field, right? We're beings of light and energy, not just carbon-based life forms. Um, so when you start calibrating those tumblers to an expected outcome, to a desired outcome, well, you can make it happen a lot quicker.
Well, and this is very relevant for this very podcast. This is something, I was in broadcasting for close to 30 years
Mhm.
and my career kind of ended abruptly, and that's a story for another day, but this was my passion and has always been my passion. So podcasting, when that came about, I thought maybe that's something I could do, but I always had that, you know, I can't do it. It's too hard. I don't know the technology or the backside of it. Who would want to listen to me talk? And I finally, it was actually this, during the holiday break this year that I said, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I don't want to be that guy that says, what if, you know,
Mhm.
when you come at the end of life. And that's kind of what you're talking about,
That
I
that's
think.
how my radio career began. I mean, I joke about this. They said, because people ask me, they said, "Chris, radio is impossible to get in." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, it was. It really was." And I went to broadcasting school. I think one other person out of the hundreds that had gone through around that time frame got a job in radio. Like, how did I do it? Simple. I was too dumb to know that I couldn't.
Yeah, my parents, I told them I wanted to be a broadcaster, and they're like, you need to have a backup plan. And I'm like,
Right,
well, okay. And I didn't really. Unfortunately, it did work out and I had, some success, but it's a tough business. What
yeah,
do
it's
you
just
have?
radio was a cruel mistress, right? Highly
It
unstable and
was.
very low paying, but other than that, it's great.
Um, you, yeah, seriously. But people think that it's very glamorous and high paying, and it's not. Um,
No.
but there is some fun things. Do you have some fond memories from the radio days?
Oh, I loved it. I loved being on the radio, because I wasn't doing it from an ego-based place, I was doing it for the experience, you know? I mean, it was never about, "Oh, I'm this," whatever. I just there was such a charge knowing that there I am live on the air, um, my voice is going out there and it's really living on that edge.
Hmm.
And that was just there was so much juice in that for me. It's almost like I wasn't doing it for me, I was doing it for it. Like radio was just this thing that I was devoted to. And that's what made it work.
Yeah, it would be wild for me to go out in the community and even go to a restaurant and something and have somebody recognize your voice, or if you're doing business somewhere and you give them your name, they're like, "Hey, is that the guy on the radio?"
Mhm.
That was fun. Didn't
Yeah.
pay the bills, but it
I mean,
was
my friends
fun.
would call me. They would just call me, be like, "That's you. Like, that's you on the radio. Like, I know that guy. It's so weird." I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah. It is weird. And it would be even weird when I would go to a new station and I would listen to the station before I join them. Like, I would even start putting the people on a pedestal who I ended up working with for many, many years.
Mhm.
It's kind of funny how that. So I'm back to status flow, and I
Mhm.
see on your website that you are some of your clients have called you the executive witch doctor, the human tuning fork, and
Yeah.
this one, little scary, the irritated Buddha. What does that mean? Where are
That
these names coming from, Chris? You're going to scare people.
It's terrifying. I had a client say to me, because I was, so my branding person, Heather, she's amazing. I mean, she's just amazing. And she's the one that coined the phrase, you're like this irritated Buddha. I thought it was so funny because I'm edgy, I'm irreverent, but I do have a lot of this kind of cosmic knowledge, if you will. And this one client said to me, said, when she was interviewing, they said, what is it like working with Chris? He said, do you know that scene in Doctor Strange when she pushed him like out of his body and he went spinning through a psychedelic universe? And she said, yeah. I says, it's like that. That working with Chris is like that. And so and I think he's
Interesting.
the one that coined the phrase that called me the executive witch doctor. He said, you're not a coach and you're not really a consultant. I said, what am I? He said, you're this sort of weird voodoo witch doctor shaman thing. I don't, and so I bought a hat, and just
But despite the names, you're dealing with real science. This isn't just voodoo that you're making up.
Right. See, here's the thing, and because most, like I said, most coaches are going to deal with all the standard stuff, right? And they're going to talk about KPIs, and they're going to talk about the market trends. They're going to get into the physical world reality of things, and that's great. It's not that it's wrong. It's just that physical world reality moves slower than the energetic. It's like, look, if you want to, let's say you want to lose weight or get in shape, most people start addressing that problem in the physical, right? They start thinking about what they eat and going to the gym. That's not where the problem started. That's where the problem finished. And so you're starting at the wrong end and swimming upstream to try and fix this, which, requires a lot of willpower, which is an exhaustible resource. And that's why people have such a struggle with this. The problem started in this kind of ethereal, energetic thing. It started in the subconscious. It starts really even in the DNA. So if you start where the problem started and let it flow downstream to the physical, it's a lot easier. It's a lot quicker. And it sounds like woo woo hippie stuff, but to your point, no, this is all backed in energy and science.
So let's take the example of weight loss. Someone,
Mhm.
I'm 50 pounds overweight. I'm going to hit the gym. I'm going to hit the gym.
Yeah.
But you're saying the overweight is actually response to something else.
I'm saying it's where that has that person's attention is where that problem finished, right? It's like they're overweight, the end. Like that's where it all starts. So James Clear talks a little bit, he kind of gets close to this in Atomic Habits. But if somebody says to me like, okay, we want to, and they do often, they'll say, hey, I want to add like a physical fitness component to our engagement. I said, okay, so here's your physical fitness routine to get started. Look, do whatever you're going to do. If you're going to change your diet, that's fine. If you're going to go to the gym, that's fine. It's incomplete. Here's the thing you're going to do is you're going to sit 4 minutes a day in silence with your eyes closed, imagining how good it feels to be in shape. Like, immerse yourself in that experience. Imagine subtle things, walking down the stairs, bending over to tie your shoes. Imagine what that would feel like if you were fit.
So it's like
This has a
visualization.
like a like a deep visualization, like an immersion in the experience. The reason this works is because it's, if I oversimplify it, it's like dress for the job you want, not the job you have. It changes your feeling state. Visualization, we know how powerful that is. It also has a physical effect in terms of subatomic physics. The act of looking at an object has a physical effect on it at the subatomic level. We can measure that. We know that. You can lose weight. You can build muscle mass by visualizing, by imagining, by immersion in an experience like this. And it starts to change kind of your self-concept, your identity. It changes your energy field. Again, just the same way putting on a suit feels different than putting on jeans and a t-shirt, right? It changes you. And this supports the sustainable outcome that you're looking for. And it can happen so much quicker. I mentioned the client earlier. I mean, this is not an isolated case. I had another client call me. She said, at 4 months, she texted me and said, you've doubled my revenues, you've eliminated my stress, and you saved my marriage. 4 months.
It reminds me some of the stuff you're saying and I can't remember the name of him, but I believe it was an admiral that gave a famous speech, a commencement speech, where he talked about get up every day, make your bed.
Make your bed. Start the day with a win.
don't sit around in your pajamas, actually get dressed. Um, so I know you're working primarily with maybe companies and businesses like that, but for people who are listening or watching on a personal level who maybe are not in a position to hire you, but they're stuck in a rut. They're,
Mhm.
whether it's being overweight or depression, or they don't have the job that they want or the career that they want. Is there, a couple of things that you can kind of point them in the direction and say, hey, this is how you get out of that rut and start moving toward the goals that you want?
There are so many tools for that kind of thing. I'll tell you one of my favorites, and I actually talk about this in my book, Renegotiate Your Existence. There's a tool that I call Banana Land, or is it Banana World, Banana Land? I think I called it Banana Land. Um, you can give it whatever name you want, but the idea is that Banana Land is a world of the fantastic, the spectacular, and the ridiculous. It's a world that has no rules. And so the exercise is to state whatever the thing is that you want, and then come up with a completely ridiculous, non-viable way to get it. Like, if I did this thing, then that would happen. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. I was working with a client who was very stuck. She's up in the Bay Area, very stuck in work, stuck in life, stuck at home, stuck in marriage, stuck, stuck, stuck. And so I said, okay, we got to get out of stuck, because stuck has a real problem in terms of how we're thinking about things and the neurochemistry that's flowing when we're stuck. And the wrong part of the brain is operating when we're in that space. So I need to access a different part of the brain. So I said, let's go to Banana Land. What is one thing you could do that you would never actually do? But if you did it, you would no longer be stuck the way you are. And she thought about it for a minute and she said, okay, I could fake my death and move to Costa Rica.
Ooh,
Yes. If you faked your death and moved to Costa Rica, you would no longer be stuck there. True. What else? And she started just rattling off all these things. And what happens is that now what she's done is she's accessed the creative part of her brain, not like the neocortex that's an ongoing calculation of your history, but it's the creative part of the brain that's coming up with creative solutions. She's also laughing her ass off. So she's getting a lot of dopamine hits and having a good time. What happens with Banana Land is that the longer you spend in that space, these viable elements start to sneak their way into the solutions ideas. Normally inside of 20 minutes, you're going to have at least some ideas on things that you can do to move forward that will actually start to get the rust off the bolt.
that's great. That's a great exercise, I think, for everyone out there to do. And I want to talk a little bit about your book.
Mhm.
What is it about, and where can we get it?
It's a toolbox, just like that one. It has some case studies in there. It has a little bit of my personal history, but it's a toolbox. And again, all these tools are steeped in psychology, neuroscience, energy. Um, it's called Renegotiate Your Existence, Unlock Your Impossible Life. It is available on Amazon. I wrote it, and you're gonna love this, David. It came out in 2019. It took me, when I finally sat down to write it, I think it only took me 4 or 5 months. But I was so over me because I wrote it about 4 times, and so when I finally got done with it, I was so over me. I'm like, I don't ever want to read this thing again. And of course, now people started asking for the audiobook, which of course I can produce myself, right? I can do all the audio production in my sleep, but I didn't want to read that damn thing again. so so I
So
still
did
I
you
I
do
did
it?
I've done all the voiceover finally. I gotta
Okay.
finish the editing and produce it, but I'll get it out soon, pretty soon here. But it is a toolbox to get to kind of get you started, because the concept is very simple. You can renegotiate your job, you can renegotiate relationships, you can renegotiate your contracts or whatever. You can renegotiate your entire existence on this planet. I know because I've done it several times. I mean, I went from being a marketing guy making a lot of money to a radio DJ loving his life to working in the neuroscience institute of the hospital. I mean, I didn't have a clinical background, right? It's like, look, you can completely morph your reality.
If somebody's watching this and they say, hey, I need to talk to Chris, or my company needs him to come in and give us some expertise, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, the website's the easiest way. Website statusflow.net. Easy way to get a hold of me. We do have, because there are two sides to the business. The business to consumer side, we have a flagship program. It's called Moonshot. It's for individuals that have some no way in hell could this possibly happen, but I really want it really bad. Um, I designed that program because I was a lot of people were like, I can't really afford that sort of thing. This program makes it so easy, and honestly, I think people in that program are getting the same results or sometimes even better than working with me one-on-one, and so I generally do more small groups of about 6 or 7 people, and it is so user-friendly, and they're in a supportive group with other people, working on their respective stuff.
Very cool. Chris, my old friend, radio buddy. It is so good to see you and to hear the great things you're doing. But I'm not sure I can call you the what was it,
Which
the
one? The witch
irritated
doctor?
Buddha.
The irritated Buddha? Yeah.
Oh, that is hilarious. But Chris M. King, motivational speaker, coach, and fellow radio veteran. Thanks so much for being on the podcast with us and giving us your wisdom.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see you, and I'm so glad you're doing well and that your boys are good. I can't believe how old they are now. Oh my gosh.
Okay, quick question.
Yeah.
What are you listening to? I know we don't have, but what kind of music you listening to?
Yeah, I sort of quit anything that would be on radio. I mean, I still love my classic rock and everything, but I listen to a lot of like EDM and sort of woo-woo hippie weird stuff. So it's like,
all right, hippie weird stuff and the classic rock. I can dig that.
Love it.
Chris, thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You've been listening to Dave Wants to Know with me, David Wiley. A special thanks to Chris M. King from statusflow.net. We appreciate you tuning in to Dave Wants to Know. Please subscribe, share, and comment. We'll see you next time.